What is negative working capital cycle? Which means that if I look at their cycle, it will be something like debtors and creditors, debtors and inventory will be, let's just say, 5 days and 2 days. And then you have creditors or advances, which are 30 days. So you have a net holding period of 5 plus 2 minus 30, which is equal to minus 23 days. Let me give you example of this. Number one, the biggest example is airlines. So airlines have zero inventory. They have zero debtors. I mean, you don't buy an air ticket and say you will pay after 30 days. That doesn't happen. So you buy air ticket today and you fly after 40 days. So they are on a negative working cycle of 40 days. They have made the sales today. They'll give you service after 40 days and they're holding that cash for a period of 40 days. So there's a negative working cycle of 40 days for airlines. Second one can be someone like Airbnb. Now, Airbnb, let's just say if you buy, or if you rent out a property on Airbnb or you're traveling with your family, going somewhere, the payment that you make to Airbnb is on the date of getting that inventory or the date when you finalize. So let's just say if today you finalize and you have 25th December as reserve day when you will be visiting the facility, you make the payment today. So A makes the payment today to Airbnb. Airbnb will sit on it for the next 30 days. And once you have gotten out, you visited the facility on 25th and you went out on 26th, that's when Airbnb will make payment to the owner. So from an Airbnb perspective, they are sitting on a negative working capital because they have made sales 30 days in advance. They sit on this cash for a period of 30 days, which is actually invested in the banks, invested in short-term assets. And these assets give them returns. And these returns are then utilized and it kind of goes directly to their P&L. And then after 30 days, the payment is made to the actual owner. And of course, they charge their commission, which is a separate business, which is like their major business, but they're sitting on this. So one thing which I again want you to understand is that just because working capital is negative or working capital cycle is negative or working capital is low working capital cycle does not necessarily mean poor business. Airbnb is one of the best startups that's out there. It's not even a startup anymore. It's like a very big business, but it's one of the best profitable businesses out there, which is sitting on a negative working capital. And just because their working capital is small or negative does not mean that the business is not strong. So one more thing or one more notion that you have to be prepared for is to understand that negative working capital cycle or less working capital cycle does not always mean that the business is poor. And the final thing that I want you to remember is, this is again this is just from I want you to note it down rather. The working capital that I spoke about was total working capital, which is current assets minus current liabilities. Note it down because there's another thing called net working capital. This is basically current assets excluding cash and marketable securities. So you have current assets excluding cash and marketable securities minus current liabilities, again excluding very short term debt or loan. So here what I'm doing is, the net working capital is basically current assets barring your cash and marketable securities minus current liabilities barring your short term loan. So basically what you do is, all the cash and bank balances, whether it's positive or negative, you remove that and then you come to your negative working capital, net working capital. This basically tells you that let's forget cash for the time being. Whatever cash you're sitting on is a separate thing. Barring my cash, which is to say, if I have debtors plus inventory plus prepaid expense minus, if I do all the current liabilities, for example, again, I have to exclude bank loans, which is to say creditors. And if I also have to remove, let's just say, accrued expense, what is left? So it basically tells me the amount in non-cash terms. Barring cash, whether it is in bank or whether it is something that you owe to bank. Let's forget bank balances for the time being. Let's forget cash. Let's forget what's there in your bank account, and let's forget what can be quickly converted into cash, like marketable securities. So let's forget cash. Let's also forget the loans that you've taken from the bank, because bank loans, if you think about it, they're not immediately payable. Bank loans are payable at a certain point of time. You can pay it after 20 days, 30 days, because they charge interest. The more you keep the bank loan, the greater will be the interest expense, right? So they say, forget bank loans, forget what's there in your bank, forget it completely. Excluding things which are in the bank or excluding things which are payable to the bank, how much is your net working capital stuck, which is to say, how much is the money which is actually stuck in the business by way of debtors, inventory, and prepaid expense, minus creditors, accrued expense, and all of that. So note down these two formulas. This is the right formula. So this one is the right formula. This is just an abbreviation to understand what this formula means and how it's basically applicable. So that gives you net working capital. The idea behind gross and net working capital is just that, forget bank and cash, both in your assets and both in your liabilities. Whatever is the loan that you've taken from bank for a short term, forget it. Whatever is the amount that is there in your bank, just forget it. Forget these two things. And now tell me what is the overall amount that's gotten stuck within the business. That basically tells you this.